There's a lot to get into. Let me start with this story, which I think is interesting, but I don't know if it's the slam dunk that it's being purported to be, because stories need context. So 2 more coaches have joined Brian Flores' lawsuit against NFL teams. Right? Steve Wilks, who was Arizona's head coach for 1 season in 2018, and Ray Horton, the an NFL assistant since 1994, who interviewed for the Tennessee Titans head coaching job in 2016. He's been all over. Right? Plus 26 other John Doe NFL teams. Right? So the Broncos, the Giants, the Dolphins, the Texans, and now the Titans under fire. Brian Flores' attorneys allege in the amended complaint that the Texans retaliated against Flores by removing him from consideration for their head coaching vacancy due to his decision to file this action and speak publicly about the systematic discrimination in the NFL. I told you, he's toxic. And anyone who thinks otherwise, now again, I don't know about legalese, but the idea that they retaliated. By the way, they did hire Lovie Smith, and obviously, I don't know. You hire Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith is a black head coach. The previous head coach for a year was a black head coach. Brian Flores is unhireable. You sue the league and call it discriminatory when you had a head coaching job for 3 years. I don't know. I don't even know what to do. So here's the new stuff in the lawsuit. Remember, Steve Wilks only had the job for a year. He wasn't a guy who was on many other lists. He got the head coaching job in Arizona, and they were an abject disaster. He says he was a bridge coach, not given any meaningful chances to succeed. They were 3-13. He was replaced by Cliff Kingsbury. The lawyers for the suit said, well, Mr. Wilks has been given the same opportunity afforded Mr. Kingsbury. Surely he would have succeeded as well. Like, this just lacks any sort of substance. The big kind of smoking gun is Mike Mularkey saying in a podcast that he knew he was getting the job back in 2016, and they went through these interviews because they had to go through the process in order to do so. That's what happened. Now, the reality is, in Tampa, they didn't interview anybody else. They gave the job to Todd Bowles, not just because he was going to get the job, but because of the time of year in which it happened. It allowed them to not do the Rooney Rule, not have to interview anybody, and they didn't. I'm just going to tell you the reality of it. All these suits have zero merit. Do I think there are interviews which are joke interviews? Yes. I'm going to use this as an example. Okay? This is the example I'll use, and if you want to dispute it, you can. This is the reality. This past summer, I interviewed for over Zoom, and I auditioned for, in person, a chance to do color commentary for an NBA team. And every person in the industry, including my agent, said, look, dude, a real long shot. You're probably not going to get it. But go through, but do you still want to do it? And I was like, yes, I want to go through the process. Because, 20 years ago, when I first started doing games, I did an audition, and I haven't done an audition ever since. I want to know what that's like. And, oh, yeah, by the way, when the people who are interviewing me asked me, why do you want to do this? I said, look, I haven't done it before. And the NBA is the best players in the world. I'd love to be a part of it. I like to teach people about basketball. I like to talk about basketball. It's what I do anyway. It would just be one team instead of doing all these other teams. And it got to the point of frustration where I didn't hear back, and I don't know if I was in the back burner or what happened. I have no ill will towards him. But I know that because I didn't play in the NBA, I didn't coach in the NBA, in addition to the fact that, there's just a I've done college games. I'm sure there's an element to it as well in which we're in a hiring cycle where if there's perfectly competent and even outstanding color commentators who not only played but also are from a diverse background, they're going to get as much or a better opportunity because of the 50 years of the past or they didn't. Like, I'm understanding and reason. I got it. Middle-aged white guy never played in the NBA, never coached in the NBA. That's a hard one to get a color job in the NBA. It just is. Color analyst is a hard one to get. So I don't know if I had a sham interview. I don't know if I ever had a shot. Everybody's really nice. I got to do it. I learned a lot. I met some people. And that's it. Okay? So, yeah, this does happen. And the person who I was told was getting the job before I ever interviewed was the person who got the job. And, oh, yeah, by the way, he's done a good job. I watched some of the games. He did a good job. But, like, this is the reality of all business. And if Steve Wilks wants to think, like, I was never given a shot, like, all right, well, you shouldn't have taken the job. But we all take jobs where we convince ourselves we can win anyway. The problem with Wilks' assessment that, I'm 1 year, so I didn't get a chance. Like, look, Jim Tomsula, remember when he got the job in San Francisco? And everybody's like, that's a joke. That's a placeholder job. Mike Mularkey got the job 1 year in Jacksonville, 2012. This is before the Tennessee job. Right? Jim Mora had the job in Seattle for 1 year. That's when then they hired Pete Carroll afterwards. Cam Cameron had the job in Miami. Okay? They end up winning one game. Bob Petrino left midway through his first job. Art Shell. Marty Schottenheimer with the then Redskins. Al Groh. 9-7 1 year with the Jets. Gone. Ray Rhodes, 92 with the Green Bay Packers. Joe Bugle. Pete Carroll only lasted 1 year with the New York Jets. Remember Rich Pettibone with the Washington Redskins or Lou Holtz with the Jets? So there's just what you do is if you cherry pick one situation, you go, man, this was unfair. Like, I don't know if Steve Wilks knew what he was doing. It was a surprise when he was hired. It was a surprise at how quickly he was fired. The reason they went and hired Kingsbury was because of his relationship with Kyler and the belief that Kyler in his system could succeed more quickly, and it's worked. So we are to the point where there absolutely is a need for more diversity in coaching in the NFL, and the league is doing as many things as they can. But there are certain jobs where guys, hey, we want you to have the job. Dirk Cutter got the job in Tampa, right? And I'm sure they did interviews. What was what's his name? He's with the LA Rams now, right? Who's the young head coach with Tampa that they got rid of and then they kept Dirk Cutter? And Dirk Cutter was there to work with Jameis Winston. That was the idea. Dirk Cutter was Jameis Winston's quarterback whisperer. It was Raheem Morris, wasn't it? Is that who they hired after Raheem Morris? Was Dirk Cutter? Right? Like an in-house candidate, a lot of times is the best candidate. Or you have a pre-established relationship with the coach or with the GM. That's what happened in New York. Like all of these things are not sinister. It is how business works. And by the way, it's why the Rooney Rule needs to be followed. Because you need to have interviews with guys, meet more guys, establish a relationship. Because all these GMs and owners, they talk to one another. That's what happened to Brian Flores. Like Flores if he wants to say, hey, I didn't get the Houston job because I sued the league, he's right. Told you it happened. It doesn't mean, it has nothing to do with him being black or white. If John Gruden sues the league, he's not getting another head coaching job. He may not get another head coaching job anyway, but he's not getting a head coaching job. Ever, period. Especially in the year in which, or in the moments in which he launched the suit. Is that retaliatory? Or is that just the reality? Hey, dude, you can sue wherever you want. But if you sue, there are ramifications for suing. Now, let me give you the marriage analogy. This is the guy who calls the divorce attorney, files for divorce, and then goes and says, like, honey, you want to go out? Have a good time? Want to go on a trip? What do you think? I cannot believe my wife won't sleep with me when I'm filing for divorce and I'm suing her for all her lively possessions. Right? What do you mean she's going out with another guy? Like, you're suing him. So I could be dead wrong here, but I think the addition of Flores with the Texans thing is laughable. The Wilks thing, I don't know anybody. Like, if Steve Wilks was such a good head coach who got such a bad rap, is there any push to have Steve Wilks as a head coach again? Is there any push to have Jim Tomsula as head coach again? Or Al Groh to be a head coach again in the NFL? Or, like, you name the one-hit wonder that it just didn't work. It just didn't. And there were lots of people critical of the Kingsbury hire. And maybe there's a ceiling. But Cliff Kingsbury won 5, he won 8. What, they win 11 this year? I don't know what to tell you, bud. They hired a coach that fit better with the quarterback, that has a relationship with the quarterback, and it seems to have worked, and it's kept all of them gainfully employed. So, I mean, look, Kevin Sumlin coached Kyler Murray his first year at Texas A&M when, of course, Cliff Kingsbury was there, but he transferred out. They didn't have a good relationship. Sumlin could have been hired. They just had a bad relationship. That's it. Am I reading this wrong, Jay Stu? Do you feel otherwise? Like, I know that lots of guys in the NFL want to do away with the sham interviews. The problem is that only some of these jobs are predetermined where they're going. Some of them are not, and you have to have something in place to make this happen.
I would say that, this is a very complicated subject, and I'm not going to be able to get to it in 15 seconds. I'm just going to say that I agree with like 95% of what you just said. And I don't care if fair or not, if you take action against an employer that you want to stay hired with, there's going to be ramifications. So that seems to be the case here as well.
I mean, this is like, again, we work for iHeart and Premiere, and we have a partnership with Fox Sports and Fox Sports Radio. So if I sue Fox Sports, do you think they'd allow me on Fox Sports Radio? Right? In what world? It's like people don't live in the real world. Some Carl York hits me messages me. What's up with calling out the lawsuit against the NFL as garbage? Which I didn't call it as garbage. I don't think I used that word, but it's okay. It's like you're buttering the bread for the fraternity of NFL owners that are corrupt. CTE, protecting women abusers, protecting other owners that are criminal. The list is long. What owners are criminal? Like the fact that what owners are criminals? They run a business. CTE is a problem with players. They were sued and settled for nearly $2 billion. Okay? No one forces NFL players to play football. Okay? It is a job. It is not one that you obviously it's incredibly dangerous. I don't know what women abusers they protect other than you're talking about a guy who is a quarterback with the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson. Never been criminally charged, and it's hard. I don't know what you do when you have these 22 civil lawsuits. This has nothing to do with protecting NFL owners. But what you shouldn't do is, this is the problem with the internet. You think something that's not any sort of reality. And you can sue all you want. I'm going to tell you how anybody's going to look at it when they're like, wait a second. So Brian Flores was suing the league. The Texans interviewed him, made it wanted to hire him. I thought they wanted to hire him because some of those guys that work with him in New England. And they pull out because he starts suing the league and calling the league's hiring practices discriminatory when they're interviewing black candidates and just hired a black coach and had a black GM. Like, I don't know. What do you want him to do? Because then if you hire Brian Flores, then it's like, oh, well, the best way to get a job is sue the league. What are you supposed to do there? We said it at the time. This is the reality. I feel not vindicated. I feel championed today. Because Flores today admitted what I said when it happened. Jay Stu, did I say that when it happened?
From the get-go, yep.
He is unhireable. That any job he could have gotten, he had no shot of getting as a head coach the second he sued the league. And he knew that. And it's disingenuous for him to say otherwise.